Welcome into episode 302 of the Sources Say podcast, your go-to Kentucky basketball and recruiting podcast on the growing KSR Podcast Network. Today, we break down the end of Kentucky's non-conference schedule with a win over Illinois State. But before we get started, a quick message from our friends at Justice Dental. Sources Say is presented by the great team at Justice Dental. Visit one of their two Lexington locations by scheduling an appointment online at justicedental.com or by calling or texting 859-543-0700. Dr. Thompson, Dr. Justice, and their team look forward to seeing you soon. I am your host, Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. Very happy to be joined once again by the one and only Sean Smith of Go Big Blue Country. Sean, how the heck are you?
I'm good, Jack. It feels weird because we've had more time off on the show than I think we've ever had. But the holiday was in there, and then not playing a game until, 2 days ago. But I saw there people tagging us yesterday, and hey, it's been way too long. It's time to get an episode out. It feels good to be back, turning the page to a new year here pretty soon, and excited to see what happens in the back half of the schedule.
Before we get into the win, I do want to. So let's preface. Let's start by saying you suffered a loss. It was a tough one. I will be the first to admit you admit you suffered a tough one, but I will say your game planning of trying to shut down Travis Perry was immaculate. What an unbelievable effort there against Lyon County. That was part of the holiday season. Was Frederick Douglass participating in a heck of an event over at Lexington Catholic. So just props. I know that the final result wasn't what you guys wanted, but for anybody that watches this show and listens to this show and basketball bennies us, maybe for me that's fair, but bro, my co-host had to come up with the game plan to shut down the state's all-time leading scorer, and he finished 8 for 25 shooting overall. Still a absolutely tremendous talent, but all things considered, I was very proud of the Frederick Douglass Fighting Broncos effort there against Lyon County.
That was an entire staff game plan that had to be put together really, really quickly, considering that we played the night before at 9 o'clock and then had to stay up all night gathering film. That was if it looks like I'm tired, it's still because I'm trying to recover from that, because it was that was a lot. And man, he didn't have an efficient night. It was the one night of the tournament that he wasn't efficient. Probably one of the few nights this season that he wasn't efficient. 8 of 25. I think he was 7 points from the free throw line. He was below his average on the season and well below his average what he was scoring in the tournament. But we made it difficult for him because we put some long athletic people on him. And I thought some of our kids did an excellent job. We got in some foul trouble too. But he's one of those guys that they have other pieces around him too. And if you lose him for a second, you're done. And if you watch the game, if you were there, you see us on the bench react like 7 or 8 times. But we know we got away with about 5 or 6 that he just was off on. But we still made it difficult. He went on like a Steph Curry type stretch, though, there to end the third quarter. That's where the game got away from us. And if we could do it all over again, plus we gave up 20 offensive rebounds and 28 second chance points. That's tough. That's unlike us, too. And he went on a stretch there, though, where he hit a 3, and they just put so much pressure on you in transition. And then he hit a 3 from the corner at the horn to end the third quarter. And I was like, man, that was his moment right there. But it was tough. We got a City of Lexington too. CATS, cats chants in the stands, playing the UK fight song. Like it was a road game, 100%. But no, a great player. He made a couple of shots, Jack, that as a coach, and I've been doing this a long time, and I've coached against some really good players. But that game was one of those things where we were applauding defense even when he made shots, because he just hits tough shots. Like he got to his spots and he made tough shots. His IQ, his passing, everything. He's going to be a great player. He's going to make it at Kentucky for sure. Like that's my takeaway. Seeing him up close for the first time, having to actually game plan, screaming out sets that they're running. They run a hammer screen where they post it, and the big will turn baseline like he's making a post move. And they've been doing this for years, and they still get into it because they blend it in with some of their other stuff so well. And then he'll just slip to the corner. And there was somebody, it was a media guy talking to me. He's like, it's just crazy how they know they're going to be there. And I was like, well, that's not just a thing. They don't just like know that somebody's going to be there. That's a scripted play, but the execution that they execute it with, and it's just a pass down the baseline to him in the corner off a hammer screen. And that's got a lot of teams. We went back and watched some tape from the Sweet 16 last year, and they ran it. They ran it the night before that we played them. They did not score on that play against us. I will say that because we made it a point and shoot around and scouting report said if they score on you on this play, the one play we're literally telling you about that they love to run, you're probably not going back in the game. So our guys listened to that one. But no, he's a talented player.
Before we move on to the game, we kind of had this moment last year watching Reed Sheppard where we watched him so often. The questions of would he be able to make it at Kentucky, we kind of felt that he would, but you never know until you know. You having to, be a part of a game plan to guard the state's all-time leading scorer who is signed on to play at Kentucky next year. How confident are you now after the fact playing against him that he is going to make it in a similar way to Reed Sheppard, what we're seeing right now at Kentucky?
Well, because when you have an entire game plan centered around a player and they can still get what they get, even though it wasn't efficient, he still played within himself. I thought he made great plays. When you put him with players at Kentucky of the caliber that are coming in with him and they'll be playing with him, he becomes an even better basketball player, even though he's not going to be a 30-point per game scorer in college. It's the same thing with Reed Sheppard. You get to see Reed Sheppard's complete game at Kentucky. You get to see Rob Dillingham's complete game at Kentucky. When you put those guys in a situation like that, especially a guy like Travis who scores the ball at such an impressive clip, is he going to be the same scorer at UK? Absolutely not. There's just no way because of the people that he plays with, and it's just a different level of basketball. But he does so many things well that it's going to translate over, that's going to make him successful. Like I expect Travis to be an even better three-point shooter in college, efficiency-wise. Not taking as many attempts, but you could see that number climb. Look at Reed Sheppard's three-point percentage. That's not what it was at North Laurel. But he's taking good shots. He's not having to be the only one taking those shots. And when he gets his feet set, playing off some of these other guys, it's tough. And then Travis has a knack to get what he wants to get, when he wants to get it, and where he wants to get it. And he understands it. He's not the most athletic player. He's not going to play above the rim with you. But between here, he's going to know where he wants to get, and his footwork is unreal. Like, that's probably my biggest compliment to him is his footwork. Is watching him get in there and get to his spots. But no, great player, even better kid, honestly. And I hope I see him again here in a couple of months. I'd love to play him again. That's a fun team to coach against. That's a fun team to play against, even though they put so much pressure on you. You want to coach in games like that. That's why I went where I went. That's where I'm at, is I wanted to coach in games like that. And that was fun.
Yeah. It very fun. I'm glad that you got to be a part of something like that and continue to move up the coaching ladder. I'm proud of you. So before that happens, we get a game to talk about. 96-70 victory for the Kentucky Wildcats over the Illinois State Redbirds, where Antonio Reeves, again, man, back-to-back games. Something about Antonio just hating Redbirds. First it was a 30 ball against the Louisville Cardinals, and then he goes up against his former team, goes for 27 on yet another efficient night, 10 of 15 overall, 4 of 8 from 3, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 34 minutes. I mean, Antonio Reeves is playing the best basketball we have seen him all around since he arrived in Lexington. His former coach, I guess it was his former coach, Sean, for like 12 minutes at Illinois State because he was on his way out as the new Illinois State coach was coming in, hitting the portal 2 off seasons ago. He said after the game, I knew he was leaving when I got there. I knew that it would be a long shot. I tried to have a couple conversations with him, but when you have a 20-point per game scorer in the transfer portal era, those kids don't stick around at Illinois State. So he said that he was proud of him watching where he came from and knowing who he was as a basketball player at Illinois State versus what he is now at Kentucky, it's night and day difference. And I mean, I think we are seeing with our own two eyes the difference between Antonio year one and Antonio year two, because he's defending hard. He's rebounding well. He's attacking. He's doing, he's not just the catch and shoot jump shooter that he was last season. He is a well-rounded player, and Kentucky is better off for it. He is playing his best basketball of his life.
He is. And, we talked about it after the North Carolina game about where he is when it comes to best players on this roster, most talented players on this roster. And I said that he doesn't need to be the first or second best player. And when it comes down to pure talent and things, like, he's not. Like, there's better, more talented NBA prospects and things here. But he's a guy, Jack, that this is why back in the summer, I know I've said this a ton, we talked about roles, and we talked about why it made so much sense for him to be back here. It's because of the pieces he was playing around. Life was going to be easier on Antonio Reeves this time around. The weight of the world wasn't going to have to be put on his shoulders to win Kentucky basketball games when it matters. Against Kansas, it was because they weren't ready yet. He took a lot of shots. He felt like he had to go be what he was last year. Since that point, though, like, he's not forced anything. And then you get efficient games like Louisville and this one back-to-back. The efficiency, he was 10 of 15, 4 of 8 from 3, 3 of 3 at the line, had 27 points. He attempted 15 shots and had 27 points. That's the second consecutive game where he had an efficient 27 and 30. Like, that's the thing that stands out to me the most about it, is he's not having to take 20-plus shots to get these lines. There's going to be some games still in league play where he's going to finish 11, 12, 13. There's going to be a couple. But you're going to have a DJ or a Reed or a Rob that's going to be the guy sitting at 20-plus. Like, that's the balance of the backcourt that's making it be what it is. But this was also my prediction that he would lead the league in scoring. And, I mean, he's right there, Jack. I don't know where he was fourth going into the Louisville game, I believe. Have you seen where he's at in the updated stats?
The one that, while you do that, the one that I know is of the John Calipari era, he is third highest in scoring ever at Kentucky under John Calipari. Jamal Murray at 20 points per game, Malik Monk at 19.8 points per game, I believe, and then Antonio's right there at 19. So those two guys are still playing in the NBA and doing a really, really bang-up job in the league. You're starting to see the vision with Antonio and his future in the league. Like, that was kind of the debate of, okay, he's old, this is fifth year senior. What is his bag beyond catch and shoot jumpers? Like, what can he be beyond that? And that was the question talking to NBA scouts this past offseason. What can he, what is he beyond just an empty scorer? Like, he kind of an empty calorie scorer leading up to this point where he's giving up just as much on the other end as he's producing on the offensive end. Can he be more than that? In this season, we're starting to kind of piece things together. And it's not coach speak when Cal says at the podium, he's playing the best basketball of his life and he's guarding the other team's best player. That might be a little hyperbole because I don't think that's necessarily sustainable. Maybe against Illinois State it is, but I would still prefer to have DJ or Justin or Adu or whomever guarding the other team's best player. But it's progress. We're at least talking about defensive upside with Antonio Reeves, where that was just nonsense just a year ago. So is there an NBA future with Antonio Reeves? Because I'm at least starting to see the vision there.
There is. There absolutely is. And, Michael Mulder didn't play a ton.
Good. Yeah, good comparison.
And played and found a position in the league there for a while, found a spot. Successful G League guy that eventually got a chance in the league. So there is. Playing at Kentucky, you kind of get a bump anyhow, because it just prepares you for what you see in that league. And if you make shots in today's game and then you can become a capable defender on the other end, then you've got a shot. So I think he does. I think he has a chance, and he's actually second in the league right now. Sears is actually averaging – so Mark Sears is averaging 19.3. Antonio's averaging 19 even. So it's right
He'll be
there.
In the conversation, yeah.
He will be. And, I mean – when it comes to scoring, and Kentucky has done that in the non-conference schedule, when you get into the league, it's going to be tough to average 19 a game across the league play, because those teams know you so well. They scout you inside and out. They've already been gathering tape on you probably. You got dudes sitting somewhere watching film and they've watched 7 games of Antonio Reeves trying to break down things. But to do that in Kentucky's non-conference schedule with all the other guys that we've talked about, and Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepherd, and DJ Wagner getting the freshman accolades that they're getting, to still be scoring the ball at an even more and more impressive clip than he did his last season. Like, he is a better basketball player, and it's not just because he's scoring the ball better. He's just a better complete player than he was a year ago. He's an entirely different guy. And I love the role that he settled into, and I love that he's back here. I love that this thing didn't end the way that it looked like it was going to for a while. And it's worked out for him, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, 27 a night isn't sustainable, and that's not what we're going to see. He's going to have some dips, but just, again, when you have 6 guys averaging double figures, which we haven't seen ever under John Calipari except for the 2011-12 year,
yeah, and it fits.
You start seeing the vision there, and I appreciated Corey Price's stat as well, that this team as a whole, another 96-point night. This is the first team since 1995-96 to hit the 81-point mark in 11 of the team's first 12 games. What was impressive about that team? They scored the hell out of the basketball, and they were they were almost impossible to stop. And they ended up not being able to be stopped down the stretch because they won the national championship.
The offensive stuff that this team does too, though, like they find ways. So when you're scouting teams, there are things that keep coaches up at night. And there's usually 1 or 2 things that you're just like, if we don't key in on this area, you could probably get beat by 20 plus. Kentucky does a lot of things. So I'm willing to bet that when you're actually sitting there and whoever's putting the scout together for Kentucky, there's bullet points, and they're probably sitting there with bullet points and erasing and rewriting because they don't know how to order them and what's probably the most important thing to do. Just on the offensive end, there's one thing that Reed Shepherd is the best at in college basketball: advancing the ball in transition. I'm telling you, watch him play. Go back and watch highlights from this game and see how many times he advanced the ball that just put instant pressure on Illinois State. I mean, I'm talking it's a pass up the street. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but up the street pass or down the street pass is up your side that you're on. And across the street is a skip pass and transition across the other side of the floor. That's how a lot of coaches will label it. He's the best in the game at doing it. He is looking, eyes are up at all times, and it's an advance down the floor that instantly puts the ball in a scoring opportunity where Antonio Reeves will catch it, whether it's Justin Edwards, it's Rob Dillingham, whoever it is, it's instantly in the hands of somebody that can make a play. And then they're having to guard off of it. And then it's back to Reed, and the ball's moving again. Like, those things right there, it's pushing the pace, but it's not with the bounce. And it's quicker to get the ball down the floor passing it, I promise.
And I like how even with a guy like Reed, where when he messes up, you think like the opposing team goes, gotcha. Like they get excited for that moment and then not realize 2-3 steps away, you're going to get ripped and then you're going to get your shot blocked on the perimeter. Like that one stretch, there was a 20-second stretch where it was a bad turnover. Admittedly, terrible turnover. He immediately follows it up with a block at the 3-point line. They get the rebound, and he rips it down at the basket, gets it and goes, and he, as you eloquently put, threw it across the street down and hit Antonio Reeves in the corner. I mean, fitted into a window that, I mean, this microphone can't fit into the window. I mean, it was just, I was on press row watching that and going, what the hell just happened? How does he do what he is able to do? That sequence of, there's so many guys that once they have a bad moment, they let one turn into 2, 3, 4, 5. He is one of those guys that he has one bad moment and doesn't allow himself to have another bad one because he turns it into 3, 4, 5, 6 straight incredible moments. That 20-second sequence is Reed Shepherd in a nutshell. In the slight chance he makes a bad play, he's going to follow it up with a ridiculous tip ball on the perimeter, swipe you at the basket, turn it the other way for a beautiful cross court assist to Antonio Reeves where he is in position. And it reminded when you were talking about that whoever asked you about Travis Perry, how he's always in the right place, and it doesn't make any sense how it's like, yeah, because that's what they do. Like this is what Reed Shepherd does. Antonio Reeves being at the right place at the right time is what he's supposed to do. This team has harmony. Everything they do is in unison, and that is it is like watching a painting, watching a musical performance, because it does feel like it has that type of chemistry and camaraderie and harmony.
A lot of it is discipline too. Like they're disciplined in who they are and what they are offensively. Guys are in spots. They know where they're supposed to be, and it's not a set spot for a set player. It's just spacing. It's their spacing in transition. It's their spacing in their half court offense. Like there were a couple of times that game where they go dribble drive, just pitching and playing. Pitch it, drive it, and you get something. And then when they slow things down and then they get into some of those Princeton looks and things that they do with Trey Mitchell there in the middle third of the floor, like they're just so hard to guard. Like across the board. It doesn't matter who's on the floor. They're just so hard to guard. And when you got Rob doing his thing and you got DJ making shots, like it's really fun to watch. And the craziest thing is we played some teams this year and some other teams that I've scouted, and so for years, if you heard the play Kentucky, it was dribble drive. It was literally just 4 in a dunker spot. So a couple of games I'm scouting this year or watching teams, I'll hear Kentucky. And in the past, I'm like, all right, this is dribble drive. No, it's actually some of the things that Kentucky's doing. It's just one like quick set to get into something. And it's like it's a Princeton look or it's a 5-out look that'll go into something, then it'll go into zone. And some of these coaches are labeling it by watching what Kentucky does, and then just they're not running the full version of it. It's just this is a one thing that we're going to do here, and we're going to put a set in that's scripted to do this. So I thought that was pretty cool. That I'm catching that and seeing it. And as someone that studies what Kentucky's done inside and out, I'm like, yeah, I recognize that instantly. But it's cool to see that probably a year ago there weren't going to be any coaches kind of trying to do what Kentucky did offensively. And here we are. There's plays being put in and installed that's Kentucky, and it's just a quick look into just to what some of the things Kentucky's doing. So, yeah, like this team – is going. I know the Ken Palm numbers and what they are right now. The defense has to climb, yes, and it has to. There's no way around it. But they're just built to overcome some things because of the efficiencies. And when you're talking about the offensive rebounding that we'll get into and the rebounding numbers, they still won this game by 26. Like, what? They still scored 96. And Illinois State attempted how many shots?
79 shots. That was the next point that I brought up. They got 24 offensive rebounds. That was we got to talk about that. But 79 shot attempts, 35 of them from 3. And Kentucky still held them to 32.9% and 22.9% from 3. Like the defense is getting better. Like I think that's something we also need to kind of talk about is they might be a little bit underrated defensively now, where that the talk had been leading up to this point that they had just been so terrible on that end that they were going to have to win games 90 to 85. But like this was kind of the vision that we talked about. We didn't need them to be otherworldly on the defensive end. They don't need to shut teams down to, Karl Anthony Towns, Willie Cauley-Stein 40-point per game numbers. Like that team was winning 60 to 40. This team can win 96 to 70. And it's still the same level of dominance because the ceiling, when there's that much scoring and that the pace is what it is, there's going to be more shot attempts. And obviously it sucks that the 24 offensive rebounds that also led to, 79 total shots, but the floor is raised when there's so much, the pace is what it is, and our shot attempts are what they are. So I think they're starting to trend the right direction with defense is the point I'm making, where I don't think they need to finish as a top 5 defensive team in the nation, because this truly is the best of the best offense, probably, up there with the best that we've seen under John Calipari. If they can be even average defensively, and I think they are right now. I think this team can win a national championship and not even think twice about it. I feel really, really good. They're trending exactly the way we need them to, especially going into conference play.
Well, that's the thing. Like when you're talking and you're looking back to what went wrong for Kentucky in the NCAA tournament, I always thought it was because they would have stretches where they just couldn't score the basketball, especially against Kansas State a year ago. Like if this team had been in that game, been able to score the basketball at the clip that they do, then you're not having those droughts. Like the biggest thing was what Kentucky would go on stretches where they'd have a 4 or 5 minute drought where they just could not make a shot. That's hard to do with this team because there are just so many guys that can do it and they can get it in transition too. And it's the way that they run. It's the way that they pass. It's their ball movement. But you talked about their defense. I mean, 9 block shots the other night, 7 steals. Like you're creating some opportunities there. Yeah, it was weird to see the rebounding numbers be what they were, but this is also a team that out-rebounded North Carolina just a few weeks ago. So, like, I don't have any concerns there because I think that that's something – look, like I said, we gave up offensive rebounds the other night. I'm not worried about us because we're going to go straight to practice because I know if we make it a point and a priority, it's going to get fixed. You think John Calipari's not making that a point and priority going into league play starting this week?
He was blocking off rims earlier in the year because of how pissed off he was about rebounding. So
yeah.
To follow that up, they responded by out rebounding one of the best rebounding teams in college basketball, in UNC. Then they reverted. And that was, Cal always has a message when he takes the podium. Every single time you could ask him about literally anything. You could ask him about his thoughts on DJ Wagner, and he will bring up whatever he wants to bring up.
Yep.
And one of the main talking points after the game, the first thing that came out of his mouth, 24 offensive rebounds unacceptable. I think he said the word 24 like 6 times in his press conference because that's a big no-go. And he brought up Jordan Burks being a very nice positive off the bench, brought up shot numbers, that Noah shooting system that we talked about during the offseason when John Welch came in, kind of utilizing the technology that just hadn't been used that much, that Kentucky has had for a couple of years, and they just hadn't used it as much. Brought that up, said Justin Edwards had taken 3,400 shots over break and hit 70% of them. Antonio Reeves took 1,400, I believe, the day before the game, and 400 of them coming after dinner. And Cal said, "This stuff is not like this isn't a science. None of this is by accident. This is what it is." So, of those many talking points that he had after the game, the main one was 24 rebounds and saying offensive rebounds and saying it just is not good enough. We reverted, and if it doesn't get better, Aaron Bradshaw and Ugon Onyenso will sit on the bench, and we will go back to what we were to start the season. Which is a very nice, like Joby Hall kind of mentality of our bench can be the biggest weapon we have because we got Reed Shepherd and Rob Dillingham dying to get in on the floor, and we know they're going to produce. Adu Thiero is going to produce. We know, you go down that bench, and we got hoopers who can make an impact on this team. It's a nice luxury to have to be able to say things like that and not need your 7-footers to be 7-footers. We can, if they're not playing the way they need to, then we'll figure it out with the other guys because we were to start the season.
Well, the bench can be motivation, and when you have it as a way that you can sit people and go somewhere else, it makes you better because the competition within. Like you have no choice but to figure out what's going on, or you don't play. And that's the beauty of this. But when you're talking the rebounding numbers, they had 24 offensive rebounds. Well, how about this stat? Second chance points was 15-14. Kentucky scored 96 points. If you take away some of those offensive rebounds, Kentucky probably scores 110, 115 because that's more opportunities for Kentucky going the other way. But the second chance points were even though you had an advantage on the offensive glass and the glass overall, 15-14. That's the number that I go look to. It's like what I said with us the other night. We gave up 28, or we gave up 20 offensive rebounds, but we gave up 28 second chance points. And we had like 7 or 8. So you lose a significant chunk of the game in one category there. So even though you look at the numbers, that's why I'm not too concerned with it, is because it didn't we're talking 24 offensive rebounds in college basketball. There's some teams that'll punish you for 30 plus off that. Like some of those are put back dunks at the rim by some people. So I'm not too concerned when I actually dive deeper into it because I do think Kentucky will get it figured out.
Also, 23 assists, 6 turnovers.
That
is so stupid. Like I'm struggling to come up with adjectives with this team lately because they are like just everything they do just kind of blows my mind in different ways. Like trying to describe how Reed Shepherd plays, it's like Rob Dillingham. What adjective can you use to describe the way Rob is playing right now? I can't. Stupid is probably the closest I could come up with because everything they do is just like, yeah, that's dumb. That's unfathomable. This team should not be shooting. Like, do you understand that this team is shooting like almost 50, 40, 80 splits while averaging 91 points a game with 6 guys averaging in double figures, and they're not turning the ball over, and they're averaging 21 assists a game? Like, those are all-time numbers, Sean, and the sample size isn't just nothing. Like this isn't 4 games into the year where we're going, oh wow, we're beating up on Poop State, let's hope we can sustain this. No, we're almost halfway through the regular season. I mean, this season is cruising and the numbers are not changing. Yes, conference play starts Saturday. We'll see what changes there. It's going to be a real test, another quad 1. And it's time to start building a resume, as we've talked about, and this is your time to shine, Sean. But the sample size is pretty clear here that this team is on pace to put up historic numbers and finish with historic numbers. Again, this team has done something that only the 96 championship team has done, and that team was seen as one of the most entertaining all-around teams in college basketball history. So what are we witnessing right now? That's what's so fun. Rob Dillingham, I asked him after the game about just what is this team's offensive upside if there is better. What does that look like? And he was like, dude, I'm going to be totally honest. I think the only way you beat this team is by us beating ourselves. He was like, I don't know how somebody, as you said, I don't know how somebody could put together a game plan to shut me down and then shut DJ down and then shut Antonio down and then shut Reed down. Like, go down the list. There's so many freaking options on this team that can hurt you. And we haven't even talked about Trey Mitchell. He was sensational. He even had 11 rebounds in that game. That was one of his better performances in a minute. I mean, Justin Edwards is kind of putting things together. He had 9 and 4 and was efficient and hit a 3 and doing some of the little things. I do not know how you beat this team except for them beating themselves, as Rob Dillingham eloquently put.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's hard. Like, this is a team that, to me, one of the few in college basketball that when you look at it, you can take something away, but they just get so much elsewhere, especially offensively. And, we were talking overall numbers and why that one stat didn't concern me. When you're looking at, points from category of the box score, Illinois State from turnovers, they got 4 points. Kentucky got 15. Paint, 36-44. Second chance, they did win 15-14. Fast break points, 6-27. Bench points, 5-36. That's a lot of categories that you're losing and Kentucky's winning within the game. And then there's other things when you dive into analytics and points per possession and stuff like that. And Kentucky's just showing up across the box score in a lot of areas and winning the game in a lot of different ways. And that's just every box score. That's North Carolina. That's Louisville. That's Illinois State. That's Miami. But you're talking resume and stuff, and we're getting into that point in the season now where we're going to have to make a big deal about it on each episode because it's important. Like, you start collecting quad 1s. There's 8 quad 1 games remaining on the schedule that I think are probably mostly going to stay within that. There's a couple that I'm watching to see if they creep up there. Mississippi State's 33 in the net right now. That maybe that game at Rupp here coming up early could be a quad 1 game. That one's on January 17th, or at some point it does. There are some games that aren't going to get there. Like Gonzaga's at 56 in the net right now. That was 33 just a couple weeks ago when we started talking resume. Like, that game at Rupp's probably not going to be a quad 1 because I don't think Gonzaga's going to have the opportunities to kind of climbing the net. Even though they're going to win games in their conference jacket, it's not going to reflect and show up a ton. That's a Gonzaga program that used to win a lot in the non-conference that would boost their resume. Well, they've lost some of those games this year, and that's hurt them. So that's a team probably coming into Rupp here in a month that's looking to get itself a big win. It's actually flipped. That's going to be the big win opportunity for Gonzaga when it comes to on-paper NCAA tournament, where Kentucky, it's probably going to end up being a quad 2. That's okay.
And I think I saw they only have 3 quad 1 opportunities left on the year, which is insane.
And they have no quad 1 wins. They're 0-4 right now.
Was I right? They only have 3 left on the year.
So
yeah,
yes.
What?
And
Kentucky,
San Francisco,
San Francisco, and St. Mary's. That's all they got.
Yeah. So like that's what I'm saying. Like that's a team that's going to come into Rupp here, and this is good though. This is good for Kentucky. This is a team that's going to walk into Rupp, and I know we're getting a month ahead, but I just like talking about these scenarios to kind of put them out there. So then when we start to get close to that game, everybody's like, man, we've been talking about this for weeks on here. We've brought this up. That's going to be a team coming into Rupp that, depending on what they do in their conference, Jack, I mean, like I said, they've lost some games here. All their losses are in quad 1. You got to have a resume, especially if you don't get many opportunities in your conference. You got to win your conference or something. Like that's not going to be an impressive looking resume. They're going to try to get that first quad 1 win at Rupp Arena to put themselves safely in, or at least build a resume. Like that's going to be a hungry team Kentucky's going to face, and Kentucky's going to face a lot of teams like that in the league. A lot of teams that are looking to get wins, and Kentucky is a marquee win this season. In the past, and last year, it was, we beat Kentucky. It's Kentucky, but when you add that it's a quad 1, and then you add that it's a team that's one of the favorites probably to win national championship, you're going to have some unreal road environments where the building's going to be juiced up even more than it was last year. So a lot of challenges coming for Kentucky. The first one is in Gainesville that they've already sold out that game. That's going to be a big one.
And on that note, and this is a nice little segue here, but the environment at Rupp Arena, I know you were coaching that night, but it was sold out against Illinois State.
That's big. It
does feel like the juice is back. It does feel like if the excitement is what it is inside of Rupp Arena right now, what will it look like in, Saturday in Gainesville? Like that was one of the main talking points Cal had after the game too, that we're expecting to go down to Gainesville and it be rowdy. Like this team, it does feel like this is going to be a big Super Bowl year where every single road test is going to be T-shirt night. It's going to be whatever. And it's been a minute since we've had that because, I remember coming on this show and saying, like, I just don't see a lot of teams scared of this Kentucky program at this point. Like, it just didn't have that juice of when they come in, when we host them, we don't need T-shirt night. We would rather host T-shirt night for Tennessee. We'd rather host it for Auburn or the teams that are actually competitive in the SEC. There was just that lull there for a minute where I don't know, the juice just wasn't there that I felt against Illinois State. And, we saw the environment, Yum Center against Louisville. Like it does feel like there's something different about this team and the excitement around it. And I think it's going to set up for some pretty darn awesome road environments, and we'll see how that goes. And if you're going to be a part of those road environments, or even just are looking to buy tickets at Rupp Arena, because those are going to be hard to come by this season, you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets. Now is not the time for guesswork. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, Game Time does all of the hard work for you. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It is the place to find last-minute seats, find exclusive flash deals, and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more with zone deals. You pick this section, and Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. And the Game Time guarantee means that you will always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Sean, I know you have used Game Time, and I know that you know several people that have used Game Time. Just how much do you love our friends at Game Time?
No, I love Game Time, and it's the place to get your tickets, whether it's ahead of time or last minute. And as Jack said, Rupp Arena was sold out for Illinois State. So if you play, and there's a lot of Kentucky fans, Jack, that when they see Kentucky at South Carolina or they see Kentucky on the road at Florida, there's fans that live all over this country that's the one game that they go to a year. So, and I know there's listeners in these states that Kentucky's going to be traveling to. So if you're planning on going to the game time's the place to get your tickets for sure.
Well, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code KSR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code KSR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And while we are knocking some of these out, happy to continue talking about our friends at FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, and there is still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. This app is so easy to use, and there are many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Pilgrim and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 and older and present in Kentucky. First online real money wager. Only $5 pregame money line wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Sean, what do you need to see in Gainesville to continue this excitement? What would Kentucky going down to Gainesville and accomplish for you?
It's going to be tough because it's that. So they played at Louisville in a true road environment, Jack, but it wasn't really a road environment. I mean, there was so much blue in there, and there will be blue in Gainesville. You and I have been there together and covered that game. We know what it looks like. There'll be plenty of Kentucky fans there, but it will be the first time that there's a student section there alongside the floor to give Kentucky some adversity. I want to see how they handle that and who handles it best. That's what I'm looking for in a first true road game. You don't win NCAA tournament games on the road, but you build NCAA tournament winners by going through the experience of the road. That's the road to get where Kentucky wants to go. It puts you in environments where there's adversity and you face it. Kentucky's going to face some in this game. Which freshmen step up when the lights are the brightest? Like this is when it gets real for Kentucky. It's 2 games a week from here on out. It's game plan, then moving on to the next game plan. There's no 7 days in between games. So I'm looking for consistency, and I'm looking to see who shines and shows up when the lights are the brightest, because in league play – everyone's coming for you. It's T-shirt night, as John Calipari likes to say it. It's been sold out for a couple of weeks now, or a few days here ahead of time. So we know Gainesville's going to be rocking because Florida's trying to get a good win for its program as well.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm very excited to see them just sustain this. Keep this momentum moving forward. Don't try to fix what's not broken. Like this is working. Just treat Florida no different than you treated Illinois State. Go in there with the same mindset. I love the quote from Adu Theorel before the game started. Somebody asked if this was a trap game, Illinois State, and he said that's not even in our vocabulary. That's not something that we are worried about. We're more focused on ourselves than we are any opponent, Illinois State, anybody. And that is how this team wins a national championship. Like that mindset of we are our, if we come together and play the way that we are supposed to and execute the way that the game plan dictates, we can beat every single team, not just beat them, but beat them by 15-20. Like that's what this team is built to do. That's what the sample size has proven. That's what they have done up to this point. Now it's about doing it against, legitimate competition. I love their energy and response going into that North Carolina game. I love the way they enter that Kansas game. They went in with the right mindset. I want to see them do that same exact thing down in Gainesville and throughout the rest of the SEC slate, because that is how this team wins yet another regular SEC regular season championship. That's how they win. Make a run in the SEC tournament, which we haven't seen in a minute. One SEC tournament win in
Yeah.
4 years or whatever it's been since 2019. So that's how, like you said, that you start building for a run in March right now. That is
You do.
what the start of SEC play looks like. So just keep that same momentum and mentality and approach this game no different than you did against Illinois State in the same way you did against North Carolina the week before. That's what is the winning recipe for this team. Don't worry about who the opponent is. Worry about yourself.
And as we enter league play here, we start to kind of key in and focus on some other teams in the league. Jack, is there anything that stands out to you that you're looking at here? I've got one. There's one team that I'm watching here, and it's Ole Miss because they're undefeated. They play Bryant today to wrap up the non-conference schedule. Undefeated. They have put themselves in a position with their non-conference schedule to be an NCAA tournament team because they went undefeated in it. Like, they've only got one quad one win that was on the road at Central Florida, but they've got wins against Memphis. They've got some games that are right there that are good wins. But when I'm talking about it because they're undefeated. It's a team that comes to Rupp Arena later in the season, but they've also got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 quad one opportunities in league play, and they're undefeated in non-conference play. That's a team that has put itself in position to make the NCAA tournament and make this league even deeper. So that's one. They play Tennessee in their first league game the same day Kentucky plays Florida. That's a massive statement for Ole Miss to go in. They're going to try to get that win and really, they're in the top 25 in the latest AP poll. Like, that's a team that's had to do a lot to get there, but they still have to prove themselves when they get in the league. And I think you're gonna see a team that's going to try to do that early. So that's a team I'm watching.
If there was one to pick for me, I think it'd be Mississippi State because they have, I think, not drowned without Tolu Smith. I think that was one that when he went down earlier in the year, and there were a lot of teams that just expected them to drown without him. And they're 10-2 entering conference play, and their resume is actually pretty darn solid, and they're 33 right now in the net. So that is one that once he gets going and starts building some momentum and turns into the all SEC caliber talent that he is, just what is their upside? What do they look like, and what can they be down the road? I think that's going to be a really interesting, tough out in the SEC tournament. I think, especially, and I think that they could be, a legitimate NCAA tournament team. I think they're firmly in the conversation right now, but I think that they have a tough identity. They're going to be one of those tough outs, both obviously in the conference, but they might surprise some people in the NCAA tournament as well.
And we're going to find out pretty quickly about them too, because their first 4 league games are at South Carolina, host Tennessee, host Alabama, at Kentucky. Oh boy! So you find out about your team. So I don't know if a team has So actually, let's go a little bit deeper here. So their first 9 league games, 8 of them are quad one games. 8 of their first 9 league games are quad one opportunities. Now, Mississippi State does have a quad 4 loss to Southern, but we talk about Kentucky's quad 3 loss. But when you have a quad 4 loss and you play 8 quad 1 games in your first 9 league games, you have a chance to kind of cancel that out. So that's probably the more intriguing team. So we went with the 2 Mississippi schools. Yeah. And they are intriguing. But yours, honestly, I'm probably a little bit more intrigued by it just because of what their schedule is to begin. You're going to know by the end of January whether or not Mississippi State's a player in the NCAA tournament or not with all those quad 1 games.
Another I'm keeping an eye on is Alabama's resume is just baffling to me. How in the hell are they 5 in the net, jumped to 5 in the net at 8-5, 0-5 in quad 1 games? Like, their resume is non-existent right now. Anybody with a pulse they've played, they've lost to. Like, their only wins are against Morehead State, Indiana State, South Alabama, Mercer. Oregon is the only, quad okay win they've got, and that was a 99-91 freaking barn burner. And then Arkansas State, Eastern Kentucky, and Liberty. Like, what about their resume indicates that that's even remotely a top 5 team in the net? So I'm keeping an eye on them as well to see if they are the fraud they appear to be this early in the season.
Yeah, I am too. and Mississippi State is one of those teams that they play early. That's their first quad one game in the league, and it's fun to look inside resumes too. And obviously, this is my time of year. This is my time to shine when we're talking quad ones and resumes and stuff because I have all this stuff pulled up, and we're probably going to start putting some graphics together on the show to kind of talking about resumes and stuff. But when you look at at what Alabama's doing, I've watched them a few times, and I've been sitting there thinking, okay, this is tough, and then the game just flips on them. Like Arizona, I fell asleep, and it was second half, and they went up. They were like up 6 or 7, and then I wake up and they lost by 13. And I was like, how? Like I've watched this happen to them multiple times though, where they're in situations and it looks like that they're going to get a big win and then they don't get it. So obviously, the way that they can shoot the ball and the way that they can score the ball at times and stuff, that's a team that you don't take lightly, because if they get hot on you, you're in trouble. But I need to see a little more from them. I need to see that they can actually beat good teams, and they're going to get opportunities in the league. But it's fun to look inside here and look at these resumes and look at these schedules. No one's is the same when it comes to quad one opportunities. It all depends on what your split is. Who are you playing home and away? It's like I just mentioned that Mississippi State has 8 of 9 to start league play quad one games. I think they've got maybe 12 quad one games total in the league, where Kentucky's got 8. And one of them, like, it just all depends on where you're going. Kentucky going to Arkansas this year is not a quad one game. That doesn't happen often. Usually that's a quad one. So I don't know. Like, it's Kentucky only has 5. Hold on. There's one. I was trying to say something. I think it's five games in league play that are outside of quad one or quad two. Kentucky's going to be playing a lot of good basketball teams, is what I'm trying to tell you. Like, the NCAA tournament's made up of teams that are in those numbers. So a lot of tough teams, a lot of tough games, a lot of fun games coming up.
All right, let's get out of here with the elephant in the room. I get the 7'2" elephant in the room. This graphic just cracks me up. Oh, goodness gracious, Daniel!
I wasn't expecting that, Daniel.
What a character!
I don't think I was on here yet when you showed that one earlier.
Anyway,
Daniel's time to shine.
So, Big Z went home for the holidays. We knew this. We talked about this. John Calipari said that this was something that they talked about behind the scenes. Did not come home for the Illinois State game as we thought and expected. Turnaround made no sense to come home, fly 15 hours back home and then 4 days later fly right back after the holidays. It just didn't make any sense, especially to come home for Illinois State. UK puts out a follow-up release that says he will be home here at some point this week. Do you buy it, Sean? What are your Big Z vibes right now? Besides, where's Waldo with the eyes? The eyes are what's cracking me up the most. There's just like a hair cockeyed and just makes him look ridiculous.
I can't. Hold on.
I can't even look at him.
I can't either. It's right above you too. So like every time I try to look at you to talk, there you are. I missed seeing him on the bench when I watched the game the other night. Like, that was probably my biggest thing, is I missed his energy, and I missed like, that's a guy that's had fun since he's been here too. So not seeing him over there was weird. I don't know. Like you said, it didn't make sense to come all the way across the country after 4 days. It about killed me driving to Idaho a few years ago. So, and that was that's another story within himself. Shout out Terry Brown if you ever listen to this episode. My guy traveling across the country with me. That's for the people that have been following for years, that story. So I couldn't imagine flying all the way across the country, getting there with family, spending time, and then as soon as you get there halfway through, you're like, crap, I got to leave now. So like it didn't make sense. So missing that one, I'm not worried about. But when do you think he's back?
I don't know if he will. I just I have heard and we've talked about this on the message board and even on this show. I heard very randomly before the North Carolina game that Z's going to go home for the holidays and never come back. And that was something that, like, when I heard it at first, because that was right in the heat of him being the ultimate cheerleader on the bench and being nothing but a supportive teammate. And that was when he had started getting out on the floor and doing some things and warm ups and going through all that stuff. So I was like, that's kind of odd. And then we didn't hear anything from the NCAA. Then the clock just kind of kept ticking and ticking and ticking. And then the holidays came, and then the actual rumors and reports started coming out. And I was like, ooh, there might be some legs to this. And so it's hard for that to get out of my head, because that's what that it was brought to my attention before the North Carolina game. He's going to go home for the holidays, quote unquote, and he's just not going to come back. Like, they're going to mutually decide at the end of the day and after the fact that if the NCAA is going to continue to sit on its hands and be the meaningless wasteland that it is consistently, and not make a decision on him in an efficient manner, then it's best for both parties on Kentucky's side. We got a national championship to win. We got to focus on this team and the group that we have right now. We can't be submitting paperwork back and forth and dealing with conversations with the NCAA constantly. I mean, we're halfway through the season. Christmas is over. Like, move on. Make a decision. New Year is here. I mean, literally tomorrow. New Year's is going to be here. So I think there's this mindset internally that we got business to take care of with our team. And then it's not fair for Z either. Like, Z is sitting there, and yes, he's being a cheerleader, but he did not come over to Kentucky to be a cheerleader. He could do that anywhere. He came over here to prove himself on college basketball's biggest stage and prove that he can be an NBA talent. And he has not been able to prove that quite yet. So I understand Cal's frustration. I understand Z's frustration. And I think that's where this needs to go if the NCAA is going to continue to sit on its ass and not make a decision. I'm hoping that they make a very quick turner, Tuesday, when the stupid offices open back up. I would love to be able to hear something quick from the NCAA. He gets cleared, and then it turns into a follow-up conversation of, hey, I know we had initially talked about you not coming back, but hey, you're now cleared. If this is what you want, let's do this. You came here the first time around. Why not? Why not give him a real shot to prove why he did this in the first place? So that's where I think this is trending. I'm hoping that I'm wrong, and I'm hoping that the NCAA makes a decision sooner rather than later. But we'll see. I just don't know if we're going to get to that point. So it's unfortunate. It's sad. I wish that we had some type of clarity and we didn't have to deal with nonsense. I think PR answers and tweets of he's not back yet, but he's going to be back next week. Like, I don't think that's fair for anybody, because I just don't think that's very genuine. I think this has been the plan for a while now, barring a change of heart from the NCAA, or I guess any type of decision from the NCAA at all. So we'll see what happens. It did not shock me at all that he didn't make the trip back for Illinois State. There's still some time before the Florida game. If there's a positive to that, there's an 8-day stretch until the next game, and then from there it's full steam ahead. So I know it's a long drawn out answer to what you asked, Sean, but overall, I don't know. I don't think it's like a lost cause completely quite yet, because the NCAA could throw in a Hail Mary and clear him, but assuming we don't get a quick answer from the NCAA, I do not think he's coming back. I don't think he will come back before we get an answer from the NCAA, if that makes sense.
I had to catch my breath because I had to run out and get my MacBook charger. So I just ran as fast as I could. That's why Jack went full screen there for a moment. So if it sounds like I'm
stop telling our secrets, Sean.
If it sounds like I'm breathing heavily, that's why, because I just had to run all the way outside my house to go get my charger.
The topic was just getting you all hot and bothered. You just
I heard everything because I had you in my ear, so I could hear you talking. I was like, I've still got a few seconds to get back in there. No, it's an unfortunate situation that it's taken this long to get to this point. Like, the new year's here and we still have no idea what his future holds. That's tough. That's tough on him. That's tough on Cal. It's especially tough on Z because Jack, like you said, if he comes back and then he's not eligible, like it's not just going to get better next year. You know what I mean? Like it's not like this is a kid that's also working on a timeline of his future and what's best for him. And I get it. Like going up against these guys is definitely the competition and stuff to prepare him for what he's going to face in the league and some of those processes that he'll go through to get drafted and put himself in the draft. But it's just not fair to leave him in a situation where he's kind of just in limbo. It's just not fair.
The next draft cycle starts in 4 months. Like next April is when players start making their decisions. Like crap or get off the pot. Like the wait up to this point just makes no sense. So, it is what it is. I'm just not ready to, change my stance on this until the NCAA makes the decision one way or the other. Like until they do, I'm going to just assume that we're not going to ever see Z on the floor for Kentucky. It's unfortunate, and I hope I'm wrong. Well, it's been fun this morning, Sean. I appreciate you coming on and venting a little bit, getting excited with me a little bit because there's a lot to be excited about. It was a fun win. SEC season is here. It's our favorite time of the year because it's kind of put up or shut up time for this group. No more poop state games. It's from here on out. It is nothing but name brand opponents, and that's always a fun time of year, Sean. So I'm excited for it. It begins next Saturday against Florida down in Gainesville. It's going to be a blast, Sean. I know you are very much looking forward to that one.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to that one. Looking forward to league play and getting with some of these teams that you have some familiarity with and you play multiple times. That's the tough part about this is these teams know you better than anyone knows you. And that's where there's new challenges presented. And when league play starts, you're just getting closer and closer to when the real stuff starts. And we're going to start finding out where Kentucky stacks up when it comes to seeding and some things like that. Be ready for ESPN bracketology and everybody's bracketology updates. And Kentucky does have its highest net ranking at 22. So trending in the right direction right now.
Sure are. Let's go on and get out of here, Sean. Where can fans find your work?
You can follow me on Twitter at GBB Country.
Find me on Twitter as well at Jack Pilgrim KSR. Go subscribe to KSR Plus. Go join the conversation over at KS Board. We have a blast over there. You do not want to miss all of it. The intel and scoop that you hear always comes first on KS Board, so make sure you go and do that. We'll be back next time for the Jam Pack Sources Say podcast. We will see you then.